Meanwhile, Greek Prime Minister Tsipras says austerity is bad for his country, but is agreeing to move forward with some of the measures anyway. Now Bernie Sanders is piling on, saying Greek and austerity are cruel and counterproductive. But Mark Serrano says Tsipras and Sanders are living in a fairy tale world. Liz McDonald is here as well. Mark, I think they played this politically pretty well. They had no cards to play at all in this until they had that election, and they painted themselves as the victims here. The big bad Germans were forcing them to do things that with austerity that were awful. They are the victims. They got the Obama administration to come in on their behalf, send our Treasury Secretary over to Europe to defend the Greek position. I think they were pretty clever here. What do you think?
They were clever, David. And you know, it's very interesting parallels with American politics, because I think Prime Minister Tsipras is the Hillary Clinton of Greek politics, because he was elected based on opposition to free market economics. That's blowing up in his face now. And yet he's still under pressure from the far left socialist wing of his own party to reject capitalism. And we're seeing that same thing with Bernie Sanders in this presidential election, pressuring Hillary Clinton. They were smart with the deal that they cut because they had to, but he's still talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Emac, we have our own little version of this situation here, where Puerto Rico has been spending like drunken sailors for years and years and years. It's finally come back to bite them. They're on the verge of bankruptcy. If they could go bankrupt, they probably would. Are we in the beginning stage? Because I hear this, you know, Puerto Rico as victim talk as well.
Yeah. Is
this the beginning of a Greek-style bailout of Puerto Rico? Yeah,
that's the talk. I think Puerto Rico matters more to the U.S. economy than Greece, because many muni bond investors have invested in Puerto Rican debt. 70% of what Puerto Rico owes is owed back to U.S. investors. So, you know, there's talk in Congress right now, of letting Puerto Rico file Chapter 9. Wow, that'd be a big deal. That means,
would mean, tell us what that would
because
actually
it would mean investors would get a haircut, and also if they go to bankruptcy, Puerto Rico's allowed to file bankruptcy, that means investors would have to have multiple different court workouts. There would be court proceedings breaking out across the country, and that's a big deal. Puerto Rico took advantage of its ability to issue tax-exempt bonds clearly right now. There's talk of a Washington, D.C. style financial control board, which they set up after Mayor Marion Barry drove that city into bankruptcy. That was $1 billion in debt back then, David. We're talking $72 billion plus for Puerto Rico.
Mark, does that concern you, and should it concern investors?
It should, you know, but what we need is some leadership. You know, what we see in Greece is emblematic of problems in other places in Europe, and yet there are plenty of great case studies, like in Canada, New Zealand, and other countries, where they were able to cut spending. And by cutting government spending and cutting government sector jobs, they were able to actually improve their debt position and improve the economy overall and create new jobs. That's what we need in this situation with Puerto Rico. And frankly, you know, Bernie Sanders has got the victimhood terminology down, like you were saying, David. You know, and he's saying it's cruel and unusual. You know what's cruel and unusual is socialist policies like we've had over the past 6 years with Obama.
You're right, because Bernie Sanders is going to end up victimizing taxpayers, you know, with his policies. So
that's
real
victimhood.
That is real victimhood. The silent majority always gets hammered in these kinds of deals. And now you hear the talk that Greece was victimized by Goldman Sachs with the derivative swaps deal. That is so lame. Greece is the one who entered into that derivative deal.
We got to leave it there. We got breaking news, but it can happen here. And as Emac just pointed out, it is happening here. What's happening there over in Greece. Mark Serrano, Liz McDonald, great discussion. Thank you very much.